Hi everyone, this is Steven from Acumen. Thanks for joining our webinar, How to Go Paperless in All Your Departments. Every company has lots of data and documents everywhere in every department, but how easy is it to find what you need when you need it? Today's modern workplace means every department needs to be able to communicate, collaborate, and do their best work from anywhere, whether you're working in the office or remote. So we've invited Patrick and Mark from Altec to show you DocLink. If you're not familiar with DocLink, it is a Sage-endorsed document management and process automation solution. Hopefully, we can start to give you some ideas on how DocLink can help you improve productivity and gain better control and visibility of your documents and data across all your departments. We would like this session to be interactive, so we encourage you to type in any questions you may have. In addition, we'll be doing a bit of polling to help you engage and better understand your needs. And with that, I'm going to turn the webinar over to Patrick to get started.
Great, thank you, Stephen, and thank you folks for joining us this afternoon. Appreciate your time. We're going to talk about DocLink today, which is the name of our document and content management system. Altec is the name of our company. So let's go and get started. Here, next slide. Today's discussions, we're going to talk about, why go paperless, what is DocLink, DocLink for accounts payable and beyond accounts payable, how DocLink can impact all the different departments as we go through that, and then talk about customer successes as well throughout the presentation today. So when stay-at-home orders became a reality, many companies scrambled to find out ways to provide their employees with remote capabilities. And many of us, like us as well, Altec and our employees are non-essential industries. And you still have to adjust to the new normal way of doing things, having a lot of employees still working remote, some people coming into the office part-time and whatnot. And being away from the office makes it apparent where there are gaps in organizations, right? And we're seeing it more and more even today, even at the beginning and even more so today. And you need to find a better way to support your remote workers, right? Which is causing them in organizations to reevaluate solutions that they have in place. And we don't see this going away. According to Gartner, a report done by Gartner, a recent report, that 74% of companies plan for a permanent shift to a more remote workforce. So it's not going away. First polling question, and Stephen, if you want to pop it up on the screen and you folks can see here, what are your biggest challenges that you're facing, working either in the office or working remotely? Where are there bottlenecks in your organization, right? Is it A, accessing critical data and information? Is it B, the manual and inefficient approval processes that you folks have? Is it C, retrieving and collating backup documentations to deliver to customers, customer invoices and statements? Is it D, processing invoices and expense reports and getting those processed on time? Or E, something else? Certainly, select the answer that best correlates with what are some of the challenges that you folks have today, and then we'll kind of get the results on the next, right before the next polling question. All right, moving on. Digital transformation is more important now than ever. This surge in technology is about helping companies manage their data, their documents, and processes better. That's the key thing, right? We've also seen firsthand how becoming a digital business can help companies stay agile when dealing with unprecedented circumstances like we do have today. And it's about taking the friction out of the internal processes that you folks have, resulting in streamlining traditional paper processes and procedures, or data entry intensive processes such as AP, and paving a way for companies to achieve their strategic initiatives. In a world of document management, we tend to think first about the document that precedes the process, but at the end of the day, it's about connecting the paper with the people, the processes, and the data from anywhere, not just in your office, but remotely, right? And that's the key. So what can DocLink do? DocLink has the ability to connect the right people at the right time with the right documents to effectively do their critical work from anywhere, whether you're remote or in the office. DocLink streamlines operations and gives back control of documents and data, and then, of course, the transactions to you folks. DocLink also gives you the capability to deliver documents outside the organization, such as customer statements and as well as supporting invoices that you need to send out, automatically managing that process for you, eliminating the manual need there. Through these three modes, DocLink can handle all your document life cycles, from when the document is generated to when it's captured. All the work that is needed is done based on the document, and then of course archiving the document so that folks in your organization can easily access the documents when they need to access the documents from anywhere. And of course, also helping you folks out with your audits as well. How does DocLink work? Let's take a look at a visual diagram to give you folks an idea. So DocLink, the core of the system, is the DocLink repository. DocLink, we have two flavors of DocLink: an on-premise, traditional on-premise DocLink solution, and then we have our cloud solution of DocLink as well. A lot of different ways you can capture and bring in documents into DocLink. We'll touch on some of the ways, but you can scan paper documents in. We can pick up documents from email. We can utilize OCR. We can read barcodes. You can have a network folder that we monitor and pick up documents into, or even content for that matter, because we could store any document or content in their native format. So paper-based documents typically get stored as TIFF or PDF, but you could store WAV files, multimedia files, Word documents, Excel, PDF, you name it, any format. We have engineering firms that store engineering drawings, for instance. Really don't care about what format the content or documents in. We could store and manage it. Then we have processes and procedures around them, like workflow, right? Routing documents or content around for review and approval. We also have forms capability, which we'll touch on. And then we have our two-way integration with Sage ERP, specifically on the payable side, payable entries, automating that. We also have some purchasing capability there as well. And then delivering documents out if you need to. We talked about, sending out AR statements and supporting documents automatically to your customers without you having to manually correlate that all together and sending it out. We can manage that life cycle electronically. And a lot of different ways you could retrieve for documents. We have our web client, smart client, which is a desktop application, or even mobile, which we support iOS and Android compatible devices. And then also access the documents right from the Sage screens. Going paperless, these are the opportunities that we see a lot. Number one, accounts payable. Let's talk about that. So DocLink often is adopted by the accounting group in AP. Why does it start with AP? Because that is where the most tangible and obvious ROI is in many of our customers. I'd say probably close to 80% of our customers start there. There's a lot of opportunity because the inefficiencies and the efficiency that you'll gain with DocLink as it relates to AP process relies on two things. One, the time to process an invoice, what's that time? And then the cost to process it. This is why generally we find AP as a logical place to start. And that's where most of our customers start. So think about the benefits, right, within your organization using DocLink to automate your accounts payable process. We give you the ability to have a self-service portal where, employees can go in, do approvals, whether it's from email or logging into the system, do approvals in a timely manner. Have escalation procedures in place if things fall behind and reminders so that you don't have to, AP doesn't have to always bug the manager to do approvals when things fall behind, because if you're managing it all on paper today or a manual process, you have no visibility. You lose visibility, right? Things can be sitting on someone's desk and they forget to approve it and whatnot. And we also, with automating the entry into the Sage ERP, it minimizes and eliminates any filing, but also any data entry needed, and ultimately streamlining the whole process and integration into your Sage ERP. This next slide here takes a look at if you think about a standard AP process in your organization that's paper-based, right? These are typically all the steps and processes that you go through, right, as a manual process. But by implementing, as you see here on the next slide, implementing DocLink, we're able to eliminate 60% of those processes that you go through in a manual process. You know, things still need to be approved, so you still do approvals, but we can automate that all electronically and having, you know, reminders and escalation procedures in place so things don't fall behind, and plus integration into the ERP system. And that's where the benefit comes into play, right? Eliminating 100% of the paper process, reducing the times to get things approved. So really all you need to do is invoice comes into our system, it goes through the approval process. If it's a non-PO based invoice, it goes get coded, it gets promoted to GL, and we push it into the ERP system, eliminating any manual data entry needed there, automating that whole process for you. Workflow delegation is also a really nice capability as well. So imagine if you're out on leave, on vacation, or anything like that, and you want to assign your workflow duties. You know, work doesn't end there. You don't have time, or you don't have the capability to do approvals while you're on leave, vacation, whatever that may be. You could assign your workflow to someone else to take care of, so things don't fall behind, right? You could set a date and time for it to start and a date and time for it to end, where this individual would do approvals on your behalf. So workflow delegation is really nice. With that, let's go, and I'm going to turn things over to Mark Whitbeck, and we'll go ahead and start with a quick demo on the AP side.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. So really, no matter how efficient you are today with your paper processes, going digital is going to help you. And that's where I always really want to start when dealing with a document lifecycle system like DocLink. So, and AP processing is really low-hanging fruit from that very beginning. Lots of paper, lots of processing of that paper. And so we can utilize tools to our advantage, like Patrick mentioned, capturing documents from either email, paper that gets scanned in, and then pushing it into an OCR process. Now, a lot of the times, OCR can handle this without any touch, and OCR being optical character recognition. So looking at a document, extracting the data, and using that data to our advantage to say, here is our vendor, here's our information, here's our invoice number, without actually ever having to type anything in or looking at that piece of paper to determine where it goes next. What I'm showing you here is an exception handling process. So OCR is very automated. If we didn't show you this, there's really nothing to show. So we've slowed down the process to basically a halt to show you kind of what it looks like as the system works behind the scenes to do that data extraction, verification, and validation. What's important about this is that even just from minimal information, we can utilize that to do a lot of the data transformation that we need to take this invoice and process it to the next step. And that might just be a phone number to go back into Sage and say, well, based on this 814 number, that links, and we know this links through the vendor information in Sage to our vendor fixtures are us. And from there, we can pull in anything else we care about relating to the vendor name, number, term, so on and so forth. So a lot of times, a phone number does all that for us. And from there, we have 5 or 6 data points immediately that it comes back to validate based on that single phone number. Additionally, we can utilize what we call anchor points. So the word invoice and number, or invoice num, invoice pound. There's about 100 different ways that our vendors are going to send that data into us. Well, the system is smart. It, one, knows all those values to specify an invoice number. It also is smart enough to know that even though if it might float around the page, it doesn't necessarily matter, and it's going to pull in that information, no problem. Look to the top, bottom, left, and right, and say 41987 is most likely our invoice number with a relatively good confidence level. So let's pull that in and use that for future searching and retrieval, automated routing to our approvers, so on and so forth. We can even go down to the line item level, say here's our PO. Let's go back to our purchase order, match on that. So if that makes a match, we can go down to our line item level, all the way down to the quantity, item number, unit price, and make a line item match back to the purchase order, back to the packing slip. So we know at the point of the invoice being received that it exactly matches our purchase order, our receipt, and our invoice. And if it does match, then send it to the right spot. And if it doesn't match, send it to an exception handling process where an approval needs to take place. You need to call our supplier and say, hey, what's going on? And that's the power of OCR, is doing a lot of the work that we'd have to do manually to begin with, doing it in an automated fashion. Once we have that data all captured via OCR, we can utilize DocLink workflows to send it around to where it needs to go next. Think your business process internally. Once I have a document, I open up that envelope, I see it, well, maybe it needs to go to an approval process, and DocLink can facilitate that through a workflow process. We can select either PO or non-PO based invoices, however you want to handle it. The workflow is very flexible to handle all your invoices. What I'm showing you is just an example of a non-PO based invoice. The power of DocLink means that you can actually GL code those non-PO based invoices directly in a web browser from anywhere in the world. You might be at home, might be in the office. You can still do it there in a web browser of your choice. This actually takes the place of having to go into your ERP and into Sage, going to the invoice data entry screen or a voucher screen of some sort, and re-entering that data in. We now are dealing with a digital document, so we want to be able to code all that just like we would in Sage. But now we can do it all in DocLink because we can code it, we can send it automatically to an approver, they can approve it, send it back, and in a batch, import that directly into the ERP. So throughout this process, you don't even need to go into the ERP, you can do everything you need to do within DocLink. As we go back to the distribution stamp, we can see that data is bidirectional. It's always communicating with the ERP all the way down to the GL account level. So as OCR brings in the vendor information, that's going to trigger default values of account codes. And those account codes are going to be automatically applied to that invoice to make your life simpler, no manual typing and GL coding. If you had to distribute this out a little bit more, let's say 3 or 4 lines, absolutely can do that through the interface quickly and efficiently by adding the lines. When we're ready and we're done with this invoice, I can say, well, let's send it to our approver. Well, who am I sending it to? Maybe I'm new in the organization and I don't know our authority level, so we can utilize DocLink for that. Just simply click on auto route. DocLink's going to look at a total amount, department level, any property value that you might want to look at, and then route that document to the correct person based on those authority levels, or really anything based on your internal processes and your business processes. Now what happens next? Typically, there's some sort of approval process. So let's log out of our AP person. We can log in as an approver or just CFO. Now, we won't expect any approver to be in DocLink 100% of the time. That would just be a massive waste of their time. So we can make sure that a notification is sent to those users just indicating, hey, you have a document ready for approval, maybe a daily email just stating how many you have is something that can be done as well. Pushing a document or the user back to DocLink using approval or denial links, or just saying, hey, you have something ready for approval. Can you go ahead and take care of it? As I'm talking, we can see some notifications coming in stating, hey, here's our document that recently came in. I can actually approve or deny directly from here, giving informational notes, think like a sticky note in the digital world as to why it was denied, maybe the wrong GL, out of budget, whatever it might be. You can write those informational notes directly in here, even directly from email, without ever having to go back into DocLink. But if we were going to, let's just pretend we're our CFO for a second. We're going to go to our workflow and see the difference that permissions takes into this process. Now, an approver is a lot different than an AP processor, so what they're going to see is different, and DocLink is extremely granular into what users can see at any given time, just for the separation of duties, to comply with audit and GAAP rules. DocLink is really great with all that. We can see here that when I click the approve button, our digital signature goes directly onto the document. We cannot change this. Nothing funny, no funny business can happen here. And we know that our CFO, in this case, Mark Sansoni, is the one doing the approval and nobody else. Like I mentioned before, we can do notes onto the document. So something like please review, click OK, and done with it. And deny that to make sure we send it back to the denial, have someone else take a look at it. They have that visibility and that traceability into that document and what we did to justify why we denied it, so on and so forth. just going to approve it last into the approved status to complete that process. So that's the last time we see that document. We can actually batch import it directly into Sage from there. We could also have another review status if accounts payable likes that idea. And really at that point, it's communicating again directly with the ERP, taking all that information in seamlessly without manual intervention to complete that process. So from start to finish, we actually processed an invoice that came in, and it, from start to finish, it took a minute or 2 minutes. And depending on your volume, this can really speed up your process. It's not having to deal with documents, physical documents sitting on people's desks. You might be able to even take advantage of early pay discounts if you're able to process documents quickly and efficiently. At the end of all this, there's that audit trail. So understanding where the document started, where it ended, and then having the ability to search and retrieve those documents are all at your fingertips. Imagine what you're maybe doing today, going to a filing cabinet, pulling and searching for an invoice from a date range, or what if you wanted to find a document over $10,000? How hard would that be to actually come up with that document quickly? Well, in DocLink, we can just do a quick example. Here are all of our invoices. We can say, let's go to our invoice amount, our toggle on our greater than operator, and say, I want to find anything over $10,000. Click on the search button, DocLink's found it. So in 5 seconds or less, we've now come up with the document that you want. And this is one great for accounts payable, any other users doing self-service of documents, even your auditors that are going to request certain documents, you can come up with those now in an instant. With that, that's really our AP process. Now, everyone's going to be a little bit different. And so we would love to talk to you more about your specific processes. But for that, hopefully that gives you an idea of what DocLink can do for you in a really simplistic form.
Great, thank you, Mark. Give you folks a quick overview on DocLink as it relates to the AP side. Let's go and continue with our presentation, and let's talk more about what DocLink can do for your organization. Moving on, let's touch on what's important for an accounting manager or a controller in an organization, or someone senior in the finance accounting department. Well, what are they looking for? Key thing here, 3 major things these individuals are looking for is the ability to provide visibility, right? Having visibility and reporting. So running accrual reports when it's coming to the end of the month, things that are outstanding inside DocLink that still needs to go through approval, that hasn't been approved and ingested into the Sage ERP system, right? Running accrual reports, understanding, who's approved things, what still needs to be out there, who still has a lot of invoices that need to be approved, for instance. It definitely improve accuracy in the accounting department, right? Being able to leverage the OCR, like Mark mentioned, capturing the data, automating the 3-way matching for PO-based invoice, non-PO, get it through the workflow approval, and then ingest it into the ERP. Automating that and improving accuracy so you eliminate any, keystrokes, errors, and things like that. And definitely, ultimately, higher value add for your organization, right? Allows you folks to grow without having to add additional folks. Or if your AP folks are working overtime, right, you're going to need a solution to help them out. But then also having this whole process in your organization in place so that folks can work remote and from anywhere. Visibility, monitoring this visibility reporting. Touching more on this, this is very key because you're able to monitor workflow statuses, see where things are at, what's been approved, who still needs to approve an invoice, manage audit trail. So whatever happens to the invoice or the document, there's a full audit history when the invoice comes into the system or a document, who's approved it, when they approved it, date and time stamp, even all the way down to view. Definitely having your audit trails in place. And definitely improve for the auditors as well. So think about providing DocLink or your auditors access to DocLink for your audits, right? Certainly that's a big use case for a lot of our clients. Improve financial reporting. We talked about running accrual reports and running pivot tables and reports within DocLink on outstanding invoices, and then streamlining intercompany accounting. You may have multiple companies set up in your Sage ERP system, and an invoice can be tied to multiple companies. We could streamline that process for you with our AP intercompany capability. And then really, here's data and research given by PricewaterhouseCoopers. And the cost of touching document is completely unnecessary. There's definitely a better way and use of your staff's time and resources than to file, than to retrieve, than to recreate documents, right? Things that get lost or destroyed, right? DocLink adds higher value to each task in your business process, eliminating the waste, time that your team is taking. So let's touch on another area, accounts receivable. So why is, or how can DocLink help your accounts receivable process, right? Being able to quickly, I know a lot of Sage ERP systems allow you to send out an invoice automatically out of the system. But what about for a customer who wants supporting documents with that, right? Maybe a signed delivery ticket. They want the signed delivery ticket before they pay for that invoice. How are you managing that? Chances are it's a manual process. We can automate that for you. We, pick up the invoice, or so think about any document or report that comes out of the ERP system that you want to bring in. We can automatically pick it up, collate it together with the signed delivery ticket or any other supporting document, and which are the supplemental documents, and send it out to your client, right? Automating that whole process. What is that taking your organization? So think about the whole sales order, quote to cash life cycle, right? All the documents associated with that, and some of these documents may need to go out to the customer when you send them an invoice. So a quote, the customer PO, a sales order acknowledgement. What about the picking ticket, the AR invoice, and then the customer payment? Keeping that whole life cycle and managing of all these documents in one central system instead of managing it all via paper today. This becomes a high need for a lot of our customers as well. And here's an example of a client. They're a food and beverage manufacturer, and they started very similar to a lot of our clients. They started with an AP process, and they realized, you know what? We're spending so much time on our AP, on the AR side, because we have to collate, we have to send out invoices and collate that with supporting documents. And it was taking a lot of time, and they were talking about hiring an additional AR person just to help out with this process, because they would have to gather all the documents, scan it, and then email it over to the client. Well, with DocLink, they implemented beyond just AP, implemented for the AR process, which allows them to, when they create that AR invoice and it gets brought into DocLink, DocLink knows I need to collate these other supporting documents in conjunction with this AR invoice and automatically send it to the client, saving them huge time, not having to hire additional headcount for that, eliminating storage as well, because they were managing all these documents in filing cabinets. Basically, we're able to reduce their AR spend in their AR processing time by 90%. So huge benefit not for this organization who utilized it for AP, found a lot of benefit, and then implemented it for AR and found additional benefit with DocLink. So next, let's touch on human resource, something that maybe you haven't thought about, or something that you have thought about and something that your organization needs. So here's a supermarket chain in Puerto Rico, Econo Supermarket. One of their biggest things that we implement for them, just like other clients, is on the AP side as well. The AP process was tedious, time-consuming, paper-intensive. We implemented it for AP, found a ton of value on the AP side, automating that process, managing that workflow, getting things approved on time so that they could take advantage of vendor discounts and eliminate any late payment fees that the vendors were charging them, because managers would sit on these invoice approvals and not getting them approved on time. Well, with the reminders and escalation procedures, they found a ton of benefit from that, making sure that managers are approving time, because you don't want your boss to get notified that you're not doing your approvals or your job. So they found benefit with AP. About 2 years later, they came back to Altec and says, you know what? We have an issue on the HR side. We have plenty of resumes. So think about a grocery business, right? The number of employees that are hired at a grocery store, not only at the grocery stores, but at corporate. So, and the turnover as well that they may have. So managing all these different documents for employees were in filing cabinets, and everything was an array, hard to find things. And part of their requirement was they needed to furnish certain documentation, such as when people get promoted or demoted, or if there was personnel action notice. So keeping all these documents in one central place. So when they had to furnish these documents to, the government in Puerto Rico, they had it all readily available. But beyond that, it was resumes, right? Managing resumes that they would get, a new employee onboarding, personnel action notice. So all these different business forms came into play as well that they implemented within DocLink to manage this all electronically, having like an employee self-service portal so that employees can manage these documents, take a look at their own documents and different forms that they can complete as well within DocLink. Great success story there. A lot of other areas that we haven't talked about. So think about, field service. Are you folks a field service organization? We see this a lot and coming up. So when you're a field service technician and you need to access documents related to the customer that you're going on site for, or if you need to take a picture, so you do maintenance or service for equipment, for say, and you want to take a picture of the equipment or the thing that you're servicing before and after, and upload it into the system. So when you invoice the client, you could send them a picture of before and after. Field service, we're seeing this more and more. Contract management. Think about all organizations have contracts. So think about contracts that you have with you and a customer or you and a vendor, right? Do you want to manage the multiple iterations of the contract before it gets finalized? What about contracts expire? So think about that. Contracts expire. Be proactive about it. 60, 90 days before they expire, send the contract out for review, for approval. Do we want to renegotiate the terms with this vendor or customer? Do we need to renew it? What happens, right? Be proactive and allow DocLink to manage that process for you electronically. What about credit card reconciliation? Do you folks have corporate cards in your organization that you have to reconcile every month, and it takes, accounting a lot of time and effort to manage that? We can manage that all for you. What about expense report? Are you folks managing expense reports on paper today or on Excel spreadsheets, and people have to attach, print it out, route it around, and that's on a manual process? We use DocLink in-house at Altec, and we use it for expense report managing contracts as well as HR and AP. But personally, I use it a lot for managing contracts with customers and with vendors, but then also expense report. When we travel, we do an expense report. Makes it really easy to manage that all and then integrate back into the ERP system as well. But then there's certification and compliance that your organization or even an employee needs, right? Similar to contracts, certifications can expire and may require additional documentations too. So certainly certification documents become a high need as well. Next polling question, and Stephen, I don't know what the results were from the previous polling question.
And share those results from the previous. Let me see if you can see those.
Oh yeah, certainly. Yeah, I see the results. Looks like, a lot of manual and inefficient approval processes is equal to, retrieving and collating backup documents for delivery. So definitely those two items, DocLink can help. Awesome. And then there's one that selected processing invoice and expense report, and then also accessing critical data and information. All right, awesome. So the next polling question, Stephen, if you could pop it up here.
Launch that.
Launch that. In what department are you looking to improve or enhance with document management, right? Potentially with DocLink. Is it in accounts payable? Is it accounts receivable? Is it your HR group? Is it legal, or maybe it's other, or all the above, right? Other could be all the above. So certainly select the best answer and what you folks are needing, and then we'll proceed with the presentation, and then we'll come back on the next polling question to get the results on these. All right. With that, we're going to jump into another demo right now. I'm going to turn things back to Mark, and we're going to walk through all the, some of the things we went through, right? Capabilities of DocLink outside of just AP, which, like I mentioned, 80% of our customers start there, but we're seeing a lot of other areas that DocLink can help, and Mark will walk through some of those other areas.
Fantastic. Yeah. So I thought, because we took that poll and a lot of the answers were related to collating automated delivery of documents kind of on the AR side or sales order side, I thought that's maybe the best place to show next. So with that in mind, let's flip our brains into the AR side. So if you're familiar with that, I'm going to actually go into the ERP and just show a screen. This may look familiar to some of you from a sales order invoice data entry screen. Now, to set the stage, we probably have gone through a process of creating a sales order and sending that out to our customer, right? Maybe it's paper, put it in an envelope, send it out via snail mail. We need a stamp, we need some office supplies. Well, what if we could do it all in an automated fashion and going paperless, right? So let's just assume for a second that sales order went out to our customer, and now we need to actually invoice them for goods that have been sold, for example. Now, every ERP is a little bit different, but the idea is we'll call it print capture. So in this version of Sage, we simply go to Quick Print. We choose a special printer within DocLink to capture that. And this isn't a physical printout of that document. This is a digital capture of that. And keeping it digital gives us a couple advantages. So when we do click on print, DocLink just takes from there using that print stream. And it says, well, let's grab all that metadata from that document, our invoice number, our customer information. A customer might include an email address. And so what we're going to do is take that sales order invoice. DocLink is going to automatically grab the originating sales order with that. We can actually email those two documents or any other documents that link to the invoice and actually deliver it to our customer in an automated fashion. So it looks something like this. As we look at an email, just a customer email, that's a part of the demonstration environment here, we can see our sales order invoice. You can see that originating sales order. DocLink did this in like 3 seconds and grabbed all the data and the documents that we need. It put together a cover sheet. No human did this, and says, hello customer, whatever customer it is. Here's your sales order number. Here's the documents attached. We could even link in this email back to the DocLink web portal. So your customers now have an access point to see all of their sales orders, all of their customer invoices, maybe even AR statements. So they can actually do self-service. They don't have to come back to you and say, hey, where's this document? Can I see it? They just access the web portal and have access to it. And again, this happens in an automated fashion. So we may be creating batches of invoices to send out on a regular interval. Think the AR statements or customer statements. They go out once a month. Well, all we do is capture it into DocLink using that print stream. DocLink facilitates and splits it all out based on individual customers. So customer A doesn't see customer B's stuff, which is important, obviously, and then send it out in an automated fashion on a regular interval. So that same day, DocLink may take maybe 100,000 of these documents and send them out automatically in an instant to all your customers. They see something like this where it's hello customer A, hello customer B. They're none the wiser, and it's all a system doing this, and no individual in customer service named Jim is doing that process at all. So on the AR side, or just document exporting and automated delivery, DocLink can really supercharge your existing business. At the very least, going digital first, but going on top of that, grabbing extra documents, automated routing, things like that can really supercharge the business. The next example, and I'd love to show you everything, but I need to pick and choose what we can show you. So I want to go into what a typical expense report looks like. I'm going to log in as an expense user named Roger. Within the DocLink portal, we can actually just go into forms at the top here, choose accounting forms, and choose the expense report from our drop-down list. So this form solution can be anything. We saw from a drop-down, it might be a check request, credit card statement, purchase requisitions, whatever you might use. A forms tool is purchased once, and you can build as many forms as you want. So beyond the original purchase, there's no additional cost to building new forms. You can build 100 of them. We don't really care. As I start this process, some automation comes into play. So my employee name is automatically filled in based on my login information. And this may also determine where this document goes next for automated approval. It's going to go to Roger's direct approver in his department, wherever he is. And on top of that, we can automate the process of getting expense line items, think receipts, into this quickly and efficiently compared to what we may be doing today, which is a paper, filling that out with pen and paper. Maybe you've gone an extra step and gone to Excel, maybe filling that out using a bunch of macros in Excel to automate that process a little more. Well, that's great, but we have no place to store that document. We have no audit trail. We still need to attach this via email, send it to our approver, and do it that way. Well, we can automate that process completely and say, great, I'm just going to attach my documents. We may have snapped a couple pictures right before this. We went to New Orleans and got some coffee and beignets. We went to Staples, got some office supplies. We're going to attach those. Once I click attach, we can pull those descriptions in. We can categorize them to say, this one's food and beverage, this one's some office supplies. And as I do that, we can automate bringing in the account codes. So maybe even your users don't even see this, but it's already coded for accounts payable. So they can simply just transform this data through that distribution stamp we showed in AP, and they automate the import in. So what we found in being a user of this is that when we do take expenses, we're really getting paid back in days, not weeks. Depending on when we put in the expense, it could be very next day that I see an automated ACH directly on my bank account and I've been paid back. So at the very least, it creates a better user experience from start to finish, allowing the user to fill in forms anywhere, being on the web, and they get paid back quicker. So it's very much a better experience to pay your employees back quickly and efficiently. With that, I'm going to pass it back to Patrick just to finish off that our slides. But really, I want to talk about the last component of this in the contract management component. So we have a lot of customers doing a lot of different things, but everyone really has contracts, as Patrick mentioned. So I want to walk you through that just so you can get a full picture of what DocLink can do to truly transform your organization. This may include redlining. It may include storing various versions of a document. DocLink can handle all of this. So if those are unique scenarios to you, we can do all this. And Patrick, you can go to the next slide for me. What I wanted to focus on today and right now is the digital signing of documents through our integration with DocuSign. What you'll see on screen here is just a typical contract, a residential lease agreement. On the left-hand side, you'll see all the properties related. So it might be, location, tenant, landlord, expiration date. When we get things like expiration date, we can do cool things with them, like knowing 30, 60, 90 days ahead of that expiration date when that document is going to expire, bringing it to the surface so a user sees it, and then getting a notification on that as well. These are just all properties that can be utilized within DocuSign. Here we can see that we're utilizing that integration. So DocLink is fully integrated with whatever DocuSign can facilitate. So think of a signature line, initials, date, and then when we're ready through, after redlining, we're ready to send that contract out, then DocLink is going to send it to our business partner. They're going to digitally sign it, send it back as a lockdown PDF. Now, DocuSign uses what's called envelopes, and so those envelopes then are routed, stored, and then we can confirm that things were signed and sent back to DocLink. We lock that down, so it's a PDF that no one else can modify after that point. So the process is really multifaceted and really in the organization.
And Mark, can I stop real quick because the PowerPoint went down? Is there a way one of you guys can go ahead and share your screen again? Sorry about that.
Continue, Mark. No problem. Sorry about that.
Yeah, if you just want to fast forward, we kind of already talked about this. Just everything that DocuSign allows for it's going to be used, and we're going to pull that data into DocLink and store that as property values as a locked down DocuSign document.
All right. Well, thank you, Mark, for walking through the demo and showing us, the capability in terms of collating documents together and sending it out. Talk a little bit about our expense report and then our DocuSign integration as well for contracts. So recap things and DocLink recap and the key differentiators and benefits for organizations. I think this is important for you folks to understand. And some of the things that DocLink can definitely do is complete the life cycle of your documents by tracking the audit history, audit trails, document retention and versioning of documents. When you have multiple versions of documents, definitely very, very beneficial. Utilize OCR and automated matching for your PO-based invoices, which in turn minimize any data entry and automate the period of matching. So if you're an organization that has invoices with potentially 100 lines or more, by automating that process, think about the time savings that you have by having someone manually look at each and every line between an invoice to a receiving document to a PO, right? I've seen organizations take hours on one invoice. Flexibility of our workflow framework, being able to create workflows and route things around electronically for approval based on dollar amount, based on customer, based on vendor, and configuring that so that everything is managed electronically and automating that instead of having someone manage that process and the approval. Our powerful search and retrieval capability. So think about being able to access documents from anywhere at any time, having full text search capability as well. And that becomes important when you're managing contracts within DocLink, right? Whether you're accessing the document from the Sage screens or directly from DocLink through our powerful search capability. Electronic forms, we touched on one of the forms, and like Mark mentioned, think about all the different business forms that you have in your organization, whether it's on the accounting side, right? That could be expense report, check request, purchase requisition, new vendor setup, credit card reconciliation. So think about all the forms there, but what about forms on the HR side or in other groups or departments that you may have on paper, Word, or Excel today that you want to manage all electronically? Our forms module allows you to recreate those and manage them with workflow all electronically. Automating document delivery. We touched on this quite a bit, and Mark demoed it. Definitely reducing manual labor process and costs associated with that, right? The time it takes an employee to manage that whole process internally definitely brings value. Our DocuSign integration, expediting any signing from anywhere. So think about, I don't know if you folks, I recently, doing a refi, a lot of the documentations can be done and signed through DocuSign and managed all electronically. So especially with folks doing, remote workforce and remote capability, DocuSign comes into play, whether it's digital signature for internal purposes or external, customers and vendors. DocLink is truly an enterprise-wide content management and document management system. It gives you one central place to store and manage everything, all your vital documents, whether it's vendor, customer-related, or employee-related documents. And last but not least, our outstanding customer support. We provide support 24/7, 365 days a year. The reason why we do that is most of our clients are here in North America because we're based, our corporate office is in Laguna Hills, California. We have our support and development office in Washington State, but we have clients all over the world. And whether it's nights or weekend, we provide support. There's always someone on call to support our clients. Our last polling question, Stephen, just wondering what the results from last poll was.
Yes,
you can
I'll go
pop
ahead and
that
share
up on the
those.
screen. Oh, almost everybody or overwhelmingly selected accounts payable, which isn't a surprise to me, just because 80% of our customers typically start there, but certainly accounts receivable, HR, legal, other, probably all the above is important. So we see that quite a bit. Accounts payable is an initial area. But let's take a look at this, right? Let's go through this. polling question. Why did you sign up for the session? Is it something that you're looking for knowledge building, for future reference? Did your boss made you do it? Is it an initiative that you have right now in your organization, right? And you want to start something and have that discussion, and you want to start, and you can use this today, and you want to learn more, you want to be contacted. So definitely select the question that best, or the answer that best suits why you're attending this webinar today.
And we'll give it a few more seconds, and then I'll go ahead and share
Sure.
it actually. So.
Yeah, while you folks select the best question here, just wanted to see if there's any questions that came through, and we could start answering some of those questions as well.
Awesome. So I'm going to actually share the results right now and end the poll, and then we'll go ahead and get started with the questions. So let me share the results there.
Oh, knowledge building. Okay, great. Yeah, you don't have a need today, but certainly knowledge build. It's always good to learn what's out there and what can help you out. And seems like there's a percentage of people that there is an initiative and you folks want to get started and have some discussion. So certainly, reach out to the Acumen team, which I'll have their information up right now while we field some questions that came through.
So right now we'll open up the chat option. So if you guys do have any questions, please write them in the chat or the Q&A, and we'll go ahead and read them out loud. We actually did have a few that came in during the presentation, so we can go ahead and get started. The first question is there ability to call up documents from within Sage? And this is, can I drill into image info from an amount reported from Sage account history or Sage intelligence reports?
There are some Sage intelligence reports that we work with that you can call documents from. Depends which one you're using, but there are some. And if there isn't one with that, we certainly can work with that and pull reports. But typically, it's on the the vendor and customer side, AR, AP, sales order, and purchase order sides where we can call documents directly from those screens.
Perfect. Thanks, Patrick. The second one that came in was what advantages DocLink offers over SharePoint that a business case can be presented to move over?
Sure, yeah. We hear that quite a bit, and we've found that there's been some organizations that use SharePoint. SharePoint's a great tool if you have the time, bandwidth, and money to customize and configure everything, because it's truly an open type of architecture where anything you do to it, any changes, any additions to it is basically requires someone that knows SharePoint in and out, and it requires some programming involved. So think about the workflows and things like that. With DocLink, the difference there is DocLink is a built software. It's all about point-click configuration. There's no need for customization. So it makes it a lot easier that you don't have to be a technical IT person to make additional workflows, make changes to workflows, add users to the system, remove users, change security, create forms, things like that. You'll be trained to be self-sufficient because it's all point-click configuration and no programming. So it could be an accounting manager, that could be an administrator of the system, doesn't necessarily have to be an IT person.
Thanks, Patrick. The other one that came in, it says, I assume, is this a full package purchase?
It's based on users and modules. So depending on what your requirements are, there may be modules that you may need versus modules you don't need. So it's based on users and modules, depending on your requirements of what you want to implement DocLink for.
Thanks. The next one is some multi-question. So it says, how are documents saved? We have a ton of documents. Do they get saved on a server or the cloud? And do they get archived?
So it depends on which version of DocLink you get. We have a DocLink on-premise, which is on your server. The documents will be stored there. And then we have our cloud version of DocLink, which runs on Microsoft Azure. So if you use our cloud, the documents will be stored in the cloud. If you use on-premise, then the documents will be stored on your server there.
Perfect. Looks like we have two more questions. So one is, can you tell us again about document properties? And can I put any document into the DocLink? And can you do wildcard search? So that was another multi-question.
Yeah, wildcard search is, so yes, you could store and manage any document or content in DocLink. I actually have a client that I work with in North Carolina. They have 42 million documents and growing that are managed through DocLink. They have on-premise DocLink. Now, the key thing there is your server. Can your server handle that many documents? Do you have the storage space? And in terms of can DocLink handle it? No problem. It really comes down to your storage space on your server. So that's the thing. So we don't care what format it's in. So it could be in Word, Excel, PDF, TIFF. If it's paper, when you scan it in, typically customers will store it as either TIFF or PDF. More TIFF so, because TIFF, there's 5-level compression, so the size of the documents are smaller than PDF. PDF is typically a little bit larger, but we could store Word, we could store Excel. We have clients storing, like I mentioned earlier, engineering drawings. You could store WAV files, multimedia files, really doesn't matter. I think there was a second part to that question too, Stephen.
It was, can you do a wildcard search?
Oh yes, wildcard search, definitely. So we could do wildcard search with like our full text search, but then there's also properties to documents, right? You could do property searches, property or metadata search based on the properties that are assigned to the document. And then you could absolutely do wildcard searches as well for the full text search. Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Patrick. And just based on time, we'll do one more question. And the last question is, how can I acquire DocLink? Is it a monthly subscription?
Yes, it could be monthly subscription, annual, or purchase, depending on how you have with Sage.
Thanks, Patrick. And I think that's all we have for today. So I'll go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you all again for joining us today. If you do have any additional questions, please reach out to us at am@acumenfl.com or give us a call at 407-965-2411. If you guys are looking for the recording, please reach out to me or your assigned account manager, and they'll give it to you. Usually it takes about a day to edit the video, so I say by the end of next week, we should have that for you. Also, be sure to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, or subscribe to our YouTube channel to check out the latest webinars and Sage videos. Thanks again, Altec, for the great presentation, and we look forward to seeing you guys again soon.
Thank you, everybody.